So, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating literary what if. We're talking about a speculative continuation of one of poetry's most mysterious and powerful voices, Emily Dickinson, imagining what her work might have become after her life ended.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that's at the very heart of this whole thing. What if an artist's voice didn't just stop when they died, you know? What if that path they were on, all those ideas they were chasing, what if we could imagine that journey continuing right past their final breath? Well, that is exactly the wild premise we are exploring today. Our journey starts in a place that's not some dusty old library, but a conceptual space that the creators call the Impossible Archive. And this is so important because it frames this entire project not as some historical find, but as a really profound thought experiment. Now, what I love about this is how upfront they are. The editors are crystal clear. This is not some long-lost manuscript they dug up. They say, we do not claim discovery. We claim only the fiction of listening very carefully to where her voice was heading. They're basically trying to tune into the frequency of what might exist in a space Dickinson herself so beautifully named the estate of possibility. So what we're dealing with here is something called a speculative continuation. Think of it as an act of really deep listening, and then creative extrapolation. It's like they're following the curve of her incredibly unique style. You know, her compressed language, her slant rhymes, her philosophical gutsiness, to see where that curve would naturally go if it wasn't cut short by death. And the way they structured this is, well, it's brilliant. They present it as a triptych, like one of those three-paneled paintings, and each of these panels shines a light on a completely different facet of Dickinson's existence, her life, her work, and, believe it or not, her imagined afterlife. Let's break down how this builds, because it's really cool. So the first panel, the Circumference Years, is all about the life that actually shaped the poetry. Then the central panel, the Dwelling in Possibility, dives deep into the work itself, this idea of language as a house. And then for the grand finale, the third panel, the White Election, dares to imagine her consciousness, her voice, actually continuing on past death. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the core idea of that middle section. Dickinson herself wrote about dwelling in possibility, a fairer house than prose. So think about it. Prose has walls. It's got a fixed structure. Subject, verb, object. It tells you what happened. But her poetry, that's the house of possibility. It has windows. You just get these incredible glimpses through it. And there's no ceiling, just an everlasting roof of sky. All right, now for the really amazing part. Let's actually listen to the voice coming from that third panel, the White Election. This is where we get a taste of this imagined grammar of afterward, with poetry speaking to us seemingly from the other side. Just listen to that for a second. The poem is suggesting that consciousness is the only thing that actually makes it past the grave. But, and here's the twist, in doing so, it loses the very self, that I that we spend our entire lives trying to build and protect. It's not about being wiped out. It's a dilation of the core, as if the self just becomes this open doorway instead of a single solid point. And then, get this, the work connects her actual poetic technique, her style, to this spiritual journey. Her famous dashes, those become breaths she takes right before plunging into the unknown. Her use of silence, that's a form of pursuit. So what this means is that her entire life's work is reframed as a kind of preparation, a practice at undoing, for that final, ultimate letting go of the self. And this all leads us to maybe the most profound, most mind-bending takeaway of the whole project, which is all about your role as the reader. The argument here is that we're not just passively watching. We are the final, absolutely crucial piece of this puzzle. Okay, this is where it gets a little wild. The source says that literature is basically necromancy by another name. The act of reading becomes a kind of seance, and we, the readers, we become the medium. By engaging with these words on the page, we are actively taking part in resurrecting the poet's voice, literally bringing it back into the world of the living. And it all culminates in what might just be the most powerful stanza in the entire collection. The voice declares that this new life, the life inside the mind of the reader, is more vivid than the biological life she actually lived. The poem says, "Do not pity me, my grave. The grass knows nothing of my whereabouts. I am between your ears." I mean, that is just a stunningly direct and intimate claim on every single one of us. So we end with a question, but this one is for you. This whole project shows how an artist's voice can live on through this act of creative reading. And it just leaves us wondering, every time you open a book, every time you get lost in a piece of art,
Whose voice are you keeping alive?